How does it work?
Well, so first of all, the interesting thing is that you can hedge out heat in the summer, snowfall in the winter, rain in the spring, frost in the fall. There's a whole family of these things, and whereas they used to just be private contracts, now they're traded on exchanges, they're cleared. It's become a real financial instrument.
And people actually trade it. I mean, this is a market?
It's a very big, a surprisingly big market, and getting bigger all the time. They're adding contracts for all the world, all sorts of new kinds of weather phenomena, and hurricanes, of course, a big one. Companies will, power generators and consumers will use these kinds of derivatives in order to hedge out their exposure with, fuel costs, et cetera, et cetera. So they've become, very robust, real derivatives.
That's so wild. Is the government involved in this at all?
Well, of course, they have to approve. The CFTC has to approve all of this. And when I first heard about it, and when many people hear about it, it kind of sounds funny at first. And you go, wait a minute, now the government's approving like whether it's going to rain in September or something? Like, isn't that like gambling? And it is a little bit like gambling, but there are some real economic consequences, as we just described. So the CFTC got comfortable that this was actually, for good and proper economic purposes, and approved these kinds of contracts.
So, I mean, how does it work? Basically, you look at the weather forecast, and then you go out and see what's available, what's cheap.
You figure out what you need protection from. And so in our CDD example, the way it technically works is you buy a contract that says, listen, for X number of dollars, you will get paid a certain number of dollars based on the number of days that were CDD days times a certain specific number of dollars. So it's dollars times CDD days. That's what you get paid. And you buy that contract for a certain amount of money. And by the way, just in case you're wondering, you can get futures and you can get options on futures. So it's the whole panoply of derivatives.
You have to go to your broker. You can't trade. I mean, you can't do this at home.
You probably could do this at home if you had the right software, because it trades on exchanges in Chicago.
You just need a weather forecast.
Yeah, exactly, and a really good one, I would suggest.
China's seen the worst drought that they've had in many decades. Now, you've got this investment with your wife in Weather Central. How could that actually help out in terms of planning for things such as droughts?
Well, I think first of all, we have 25 broadcast clients currently in China, and we are the #1 provider of broadcast weather graphic solutions in the country. I mean, you had this downpour, I believe, in the last 24 hours, which has caused even people losing their lives, and situations like this. With the detail that we can put up through the technology that we give to the various weather stations, this makes people more aware of it. On the whole, it's a question of giving the opportunity. I mean, we have also launched an operation called My Weather, which gains access to the first truly personalized weather application for the web and mobile devices. You can go up on myweather.com and you can find out within a kilometer of where you are what is going to happen to the weather. It also gives a 10-day forecast. I think we've got to be aware that we're living in a time, I'm not going to get into the subject, which is a huge subject of climate change, but we do have variations of all sorts around the world.